speaking of support, what an incredible outpouring of support we saw this week, on the heels of the incredibly untimely passing of Lizzy Musi, someone who I feel like we've watched her grow up. I mean, I vividly remember the first time I encountered her, her getting her feet wet in a Top Sportsman car, and transition to that. I loved the red Edelbrock test car, and then getting into PDRA Pro Nitrous, and of course, I would say the tippy top of the No Prep Kings mountain in terms of stardom. I want to share this because I think it's relevant. It's horror. Obviously, this is the most tragic of news. I will be honest with you and say that I was somewhat blind. I mean, obviously, Lizzy's been fighting the battle against cancer for over a year now, and but I guess we just, you start to hear less, and you kind of cross your fingers and hope that things are headed in the right direction. And cancer is one of those weird things that affects almost all of us. I think both my parents are cancer survivors, so it's near and dear my heart. But I was completely blindsided by the news that Lizzy had passed last Thursday night. Just gut-wrenching moment. But in the days that followed, I was reminded of how significant her impact has been on this sport. I mean, we spent a lot of time talking about these generational stars, right? I mean, we just spoke for the last couple of weeks about John Force, but I mean, if you can compare and contrast, like, the impact John has had over the course of 50, 60 plus years, right? And you think about the impact that Lizzy achieved and the mark she made here in a really short amount of time in drag racing metrics. And I wanted to say that, like, when we posted the story, and shout out to our editorial team who have really been, I got to tip my cap to all of them. Nate Van Wagenen, our editor-in-chief, Kayla Zadell, Craig Cook, everybody involved with the editorial end, yourself, Mike, Josh Dixon. It's been heavy the last few weeks. It just seems like one gut-wrenching moment after another, and they have answered the call. And I've tasked our team with, I want to cover the sport of drag racing with the same reverence and the same professionalism and the same class that you would see ESPN cover the NFL, or Fox Sports cover the NHL or NBA or what have you. And I think that's an important thing, and we can't ignore these things when they happen. We have to acknowledge them. And I just want to give a huge shout out to our team, because it's been tough the last few weeks to constantly be faced with another bad news piece. It's not something that we like to do here. In typical news terminology, if it bleeds, it leads. I mean, a lot of the mainstream media loves bad news. It's something that we've shied away from here, sometimes to our detriment. I mean, I think both of you will agree that we've had plenty of opportunities over the years to break some bad news story or be the first on the scene with something, and we've resisted, because I never wanted that to be our calling card. I never wanted to be the guys that were kind of ambulance chasers, so to speak, and just following around the next bad news story because they knew it would produce the most clicks or the most views. But I do want to acknowledge that the news of Lizzy Musi's passing crashed our website on 4 separate occasions. We've never in the history of this company, almost 20 years strong, saw the type of web traffic. We had 500,000 people on the website inside of 24 hours. And I've never seen, and I know that's obviously of little solace, little comfort in this moment.
It crashed when we announced that she was diagnosed with breast cancer as well.
It did.
And she's, and I think there was been other times too. She's a site crasher. She crashed the stream for the services yesterday. I mean, it's that's a consistent thing. Anything with Lizzy is going to strain your resources. So,
and like I said, it does little to comfort anyone. I know it does little to provide solace to the family and the people that are, upside down right now over this situation. But I hope it does demonstrate how significant this young woman's impact, the mark she made on this sport, because I honestly don't know what else we could have put on dragillustrated.com that would have generated that type of interest in just overwhelming.
Well, also it was
unbelievable.
It was picked up by so many mainstream media and news outlets, which is what was amazing. And they were linking back in a lot of situations to Drag Illustrated, because I think we probably had the most coverage of her and the most recent and up-to-date news and coverage on her. That's another testament to Kayla and the editorial team on our website. But I mean, I don't know if everyone saw this, but it's on Newsweek, it's on New York Post, it's
TMZ,
on
E
Yahoo,
News.
E News, Entertainment Tonight, TMZ. Pat told me TMZ actually called the shop to get quotes or an interview. I don't think they got a hold of him. I think it was in the middle of just probably the worst timing of it. But I mean, that alone, like we're talking about the reach and impact she has, and how we're always wanting Drag Illustrated to make that jump to the mainstream and to have these crossover stars that can reach beyond our sport. She was one of those, and in my opinion, in a lot of ways, underrated for that and for her career arc that she had. And I think as time goes on, we're going to look back and see her impact and see what she did in the sport, and for all the attention and all the coverage she got, I do think that those things were underrated.
I think you're right, and we are going to look back. And first and foremost, on a multitude of levels, we're going to miss her.
Mm-hmm.
She was a lightning rod, a fierce competitor. I mean, because let's not make light of the fact this is a very accomplished, rapidly improving, confident, constantly improving driver, and she did everything very well. Like everything was a big production, big. Always had a presence at every trade show. She was doing meet and greets. She was all these big sponsors. Like she had really taken, and it was something that we had not seen that much of,
Mm-hmm.
because in typical, I mean, if you look through the pits at a no prep Kings race, for example, I mean, you see a lot of independent business owners, people that are, small business owners that have had some level of success financially or in business that has supported or afforded them the opportunity to race, where Lizzy was out raising money, racing to win, racing because that purse money would keep her at the next event, developing merch, selling stuff. Like she had created a real business out of her
Oh
racing.
yeah.
And I think it's incredible that someone who was racing 8th mile door slammers had found a way to turn it into a business. And I
Yeah,
do
I
think
think
you're
a
right.
lot of
We're going to
people, yeah, a lot of people, want to discredit her or say, "Oh, it's she's the son of Pat Musi. She had this head start. She's got daddy's money." I saw that a lot. I mean, the Musis are not, poor or whatever by any means, but they're not, billionaires. And Pat built his business on his own from the ground up, and then maybe was able to get Lizzy the head start that she needed to get out there. But she performed under immense pressure. That's the thing that I think that people don't realize is, Wes, we saw it when we would go to these No Prep Kings events. I feel like the entire attendance, everyone there was there to be in Lizzy's autograph and t-shirt line. And she would stand there for hours and take photos and sign autographs and sell shirts to people. And if you're one of the people that maybe she, you caught her when she was sick or tired or didn't get a hold of her, it wasn't for lack of effort or the fact that she didn't want to do it. It just had to be absolutely overwhelming, the pressure and the spotlight that she performed under on and off the track. And I think for her to get thrown into, because I mean, if you remember early in her career, there was that big crash she had in that blue 68 Camaro, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And it was on, she was like, she did news stories then. She was on like Good Morning America or something, whatever it was, talking about this crash. And then, that's like not a positive thing, but she kind of turned it into one. And then she was in that red car, and then we were there for her pro nitrous debut in the King Kong car, the former Stratus that Pat had raced. And just to kind of get thrown into it like that, with all that pressure of Pat being your dad and the success that he had, and then just all the attention and the expectation she had to continue to work at it and improve. And she had adversity. She crashed a few more times. She had, several instances where you could go, I don't want to do this. This is too much. This is, maybe this isn't for me or whatever. But she continued, like we talked about, to improve, to where if you saw in-car camera footage of her, or if you saw some of her, most recent performances in the last handful of years, you would just see a consistent machine of a driver in there, and really learn from those early situations. So, like I said, I think that's one thing that I take away from it, and being close to the family and close to them here in Mooresville, is just the behind the scenes, the pressure, and the how underrated she was, especially. I mean, I feel like she was probably just hitting her stride in her career, and to see what's happened to her, and someone that was in such good shape and took care of herself. I never saw her eat anything but a salad. I mean, she took pride in all of that, and to see cancer take someone like that from us, someone that was so healthy and vibrant and could just light up a room, is just absolutely tragic on a personal level, and for the family and for the sport of drag racing.
I
Well
I
said.
have a multitude of thoughts and memories when I think about Lizzy. Like, I think about having to, so many of us are lucky in that a lot of our, our personal lives are personal, but she found herself very early on in a position where, these things are constantly being talked about in the public forum, constantly being talked about on social media. And the way she managed it and took the chances that she did and forged forward, when, like you said, Mike, she had multiple opportunities to say, you know what, I don't think this is for me, or I don't know that it's worth it. I think back to just last year at the Texas Motorplex for the No Prep Kings season finale, being there and literally being in the pits with Pat and Liz and Lizzy, and honestly feeling like you were on a red carpet somewhere. I mean, you were constantly like being photographed, and everybody around, and it wasn't like cell phone pictures. I mean, there's like photographers there taking photos with telephoto lenses, trying to catch a glimpse of her. And I think back to her PDRA Pro Nitrous debut when she was driving the Kong Stratus. I remember this moment. Mike, you and I were in the tower, I think, talking. I can't remember who we were with. We were hanging out with somebody. Maybe it was John Ford. I can't remember. But anyways, we were up in the tower, and this was back kind of earlier on in the fuel-injected nitrous racing days, and the car went idle.
It was cool outside, and it was, I just don't think they had it idling exactly right. It was
went
throwing
idle,
something off.
and it kept dying, and she'd start it, put it in gear, and as soon as it got a load on the motor, it'd die. And she'd put it back in neutral, fire it back up, and it did it 2 or 3 times. And Pat was up on the starting line, headset on, ready to, hey, it's time to go. I believe there was already another car that had done its burnout, and here comes Pat storming back, and it's like, I immediately went back to being a kid, having my dad come yell and scream at me about something. And I remember, and I've been in this moment, but Lizzy's strapped in the car. He swings the door open, leans in there, reaches up, fires it. He's got his hand on the throttle, running the throttle, is wabba, wabba, revving it up, and I'm like, holy crap. And then she goes up there and goes 030, makes a killer pass, never bobbles, does a great burnout, stages the car calm and collected. And I remember going to see her after the fact, and I said, I truly believe it's moments like that when you've got people yelling in your face, you've got all this pressure, you've got to hurry up, short burnout, right? All the hand signals are happening. In your first race, and you go up there and you handle it like a pro. And it was, I felt like that was going to be impactful on her.
I think she went to the semis in that first race, if I'm remembering correctly. And she did very well, qualified top half of the field, went to the semis or something. And I believe she won a Pro Nitrous race in her first season. I think it was at VMP.
And
she was a star. She was a star from way back when too. I mean,
yeah,
even back in those days, we got her in trouble one time. Do you guys remember at the VI after hours party?
We did get her in trouble.
Yeah, and Pat and Vic Edelbrock had left the party and kind of, I think, left him. Maybe Mike was supposed to take care. I don't know, but when I walked, I was late as well to get back to the trade show the next day after the party, and I could go by the Edelbrock booth, and there sits Pat, and he just stares at me, and I'm like, uh-oh. And he's like, where's Lizzy? I don't know, man. And he's like, well, last time I saw her with you guys, and yeah, she was late for her autograph session.
Yeah, I remember that.
She's still selling or sitting there signing autographs, and really young in her career at that point.
It was an autograph session with her and Vic Edelbrock, and they had posters made and everything, and they had this table, like a 2-person table with 2 chairs. And I remember walking up to the table, and it's just Vic Edelbrock signing, and then a blank chair and a stack of posters sitting there. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, our bad. Shout out to the PRI party, all of our brothers and sisters.
She's not the first one. She's not the first one to not show up to the show the next day or be struggling, but that's a perfect example where everybody knew that Lizzy wasn't there because, the spotlight was always on her. The rest of us could escape that if we had to or wanted to, but she couldn't. So, and I think she learned from that stuff too. I'm telling you, I never saw her. I couldn't tell you the last time I saw her, stay out late or do anything, or like I said, you go to dinner, we're all eating steaks or whatever else, and she's having a salad. And so she really took her health seriously, and but just saw her,
And I
went
give
to
the
dinner with
family
her and
credit.
Jeffrey about a month ago, to celebrate a new deal that the Musis had brought on for this year with Rottler. And she said she felt good, looked good. She just was moving forward. You would just never know. And so to see it kind of happen the way it did again is just shocking and tragic for so many people.
Well, I just want to say, like, on behalf of myself, Mike, JT, the whole team here at Drag Illustrated, Blake in the green room, everybody involved with this company, we're, I don't know, what, 20 or almost 20 strong at this point. Our hearts go out to Pat, Liz, the entire Musi family. It's a large operation. She touched a lot of different people and was involved with a lot of different sponsors, and a lot of companies really embraced her and had her a big part of what they do and a big part of their promotional strategy. And our hearts are with you guys. And Mike, I know there was a massive turnout yesterday
There
at the
was.
celebration of life. They had the cars out there. I mean, that was another thing that I think that she leaned into the opportunity that was provided to her by Discovery Channel. And I thought it was fantastic that she chose to participate in all those shows and all those spin-offs. And because I think a lot of people would have said, there's not enough in it for me. It's going to be too much work or too much pressure, too much travel. Never said no, always a part of those deals, took advantage of the opportunity. And I think that's why we're speaking of her with such reverence right now. And
Yeah, that was hard. Honestly, it hit me yesterday. It really, I've been kind of in shock, through the whole deal, and it doesn't really hit you until there's like that one moment. And I was in the turn lane on the highway getting ready to pull into the funeral home, and you could see the cars out there on display, like from the road. And that was like, it hit me right there. They're like, this is real. This is the last time, we have seen that car make its last pass with her behind the wheel, or, period. So it's tough. They fired that car up though. The funeral home people were not prepared for that. They were not prepared. They actually did a fantastic job, I have to say, dealing with the amount of people that were there and just with everything going on, the attention that brought. They had everything set up and everything flowed really nicely. And then when they fired those cars up, or they fired up the No Prep Kings car, I don't think that they were ready for that, or they were ready to see the cops roll around the corner and wonder what was going on over there. But it was a cool moment. I know everyone enjoyed that. I think there were some videos circulating of that on various sites.
Yep.
So that was that.
I mean,
that
and
got
I
a lot
think
of people.
I'm so glad that we had her match race at the World Series of
I
Pro
know,
Mod
me
back in
too.
March. Because, like, I told Pat, and I told him this on the starting line, and I get chills talking about it. Like, I told him when he was there, it was a dream of mine to have them at one of my races. Like, you go into these things, and I'm a dreamer, but it's like, I want to do something where these people are there. This guy comes, or that guy comes, and that gal comes, and that means something to me, just to get that vote of confidence, or them acknowledging that they believe in what we're doing by showing up. And I remember when I was up doing my insanity on the starting line, but like every time I'd look in her car, the front windshield on that car was pretty sizable with the stock body lines. I felt like I could see a whole lot more into the car than any of the other pro mods that were there. And I would go up and clap, give her, get her fired up, and she would clap right back at me. You know what I mean? She had those skeleton finger gloves on, the fight that people wear.
And then rip a hell of a burnout. Lizzy, I would say Lizzy is the modern day burnout champion. I would say burnout king, but she would be the burnout queen. But it's not just among women. She would do a hell of a burnout. And I mean, they like to do those a little bit more in the no prep situation to try to lay some rubber down, obviously, versus the terrible burnouts that we tend to do in every other class now. But when Lizzy would do a burnout and sit there and boil them for so long that the smoke would catch in the zoomies, and then it would go like sky high. I don't know if you'd watch, and and then here they had the pink underglows under it too. I mean, just sitting there doing a burnout was like a spectacle usually for the last couple of years. So she's like the modern day John Force. He was known for doing huge burnouts. I think back in the day, guys would just take pride in their burnouts, and she did, and that was such a cool thing here in recent times to continue to see that.
It was definitely what I noticed. I went over to her after she made her first like shakedown run on Thursday or Friday night, and she did like an 8th-mile burnout. And I go, hey, just keep doing that. Like, I don't care, scoreboards off, scoreboard, whatever. Just keep doing those. Keep doing those big burnouts. And I think I actually told some of my pro mod guys and gals, like, hey, take note, because that helps. It helps a lot.